And now, the Bonfire with Big J.
And you two being super Howard fans know this guy, know his background.
Yeah,
you know him from the Brewer days.
They were literally, as I walked up with my headphones and I was hearing them talk about, they had a thing with him in a nude beach where he just shows, because he has a monster hog.
Yeah. God is silly like that.
And he loves showing it.
God gives, mentally retarded people massive dicks just to be like, that's why God has, I believe in God, and I think God has a great sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. That's a good sense of humor right there. And he also, he's challenged. He's a mentally challenged fella.
Yeah.
So the thing is, he also doesn't really have a grip on like sexuality. So the idea is he loves people seeing his dick. He wouldn't tell you he's gay or anything, but he's fine if gay guys love his dick, if straight guys look at his dick, women.
He got a hard on when he was talking to the gay guys about his dick.
They said he started getting hard when the gay guys were complimenting his dick.
But he's just, because he's so happy.
He's just impishly happy about his big wiener.
It's like a happy boner. It's not an aggressive boners are scary.
Yeah. He'll just show it.
Yeah. So medicated, it's medicated Pete.
Yeah.
I always told you the story about when I moved to New York and my friend Troy worked here on the NFL channel, and he was my friend from U of A. I barely knew anybody. It was right when I moved to New York in 2007, and he's like, there's a Super Bowl party, and it's Pharrell's Super Bowl party. And I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. And he's like, do you want to go to Pharrell's Super Bowl party? I was like, yeah. And it was Scott Pharrell. Mm-hmm. So it was
you
I thought it was Pharrell from the Neptunes.
Hey, what's up? How you doing? You thought you were going to a Neptunes party?
I thought I was going to a cool.
What a different thing,
dude! I hope maybe I could find the picture on MySpace, but there's a picture of me drinking a beer with him there, and I'm wearing like a Jordan hoodie because you clearly thought I thought I was going to go to like a cool Super Bowl party, but I was smoking a cigarette in the back. And High Pitch Eric was there. Okay. And I was a fan of Howard. I'd been listening. Also, I became a fan of Howard through Howard TV. He was never really on.
Really?
Yeah, because he was never.
Wait, you mean through E! Channel?
E! Channel.
E! Channel.
Yeah, the E! Channel show.
Howard TV was a pay-per-view service that came after.
I watched it at your house. That's what I watched Howard TV at your house.
Oh, yeah.
But I lived in Denver, and he wasn't on in Denver.
Oh, okay.
You had like Lewis and Floor Wax. You had like regular guys or whatever. But then
were they your best friends?
But then you found out about Howard because he was the most famous shock jock or DJ in the fucking nation. And then Private Parts I loved, and like I read the book, and I was like, oh, Howard Stern rules, but I couldn't really listen to him. And then with Napster and shit, that's when I started like, but then E! putting on the TV show was massive, and I could watch it and love it. So I had seen High Pitch Eric on the TV show with the fish where he's like, stop doing that.
One of the funniest things.
Or was that
ever.
Howard TV? I forget which one it was.
It was both.
Yeah.
It went back, because like, the thing is, what they did on Howard TV that was awesome was they went back and posted a bunch of the E! stuff uncensored.
Yeah.
Which was awesome.
That is awesome.
That was so awesome. But High Pitch Eric, they found out during one of the, it was like Wheel of Punishments he had to do. Yeah. And one of them was get slapped with a dead fish. Yeah. And they find out, I think in that moment, that he's terribly afraid of dead fish. By the way, I don't like him either. However, I would not, but him just going, no.
So,
and then they had a guy that used to be on the show named KC, who was every bit exactly what, I'm surprised he made it on the show so long. He was just like a bullyish.
Was he like Wall Street guy?
He looked like one, but no, he was like a former, like football player, like high, like college football player.
He's a big lug.
Yeah, he was like super muscular. Dude, he had a sexy poster he put out while he was on Howard Stern show. You remember that?
Yeah.
Like a real like sexy poster, black and white with him like looking down.
That's great.
And his shirt off. He was jacked. He used to fuck a bunch of the. I think he ended up getting fired for he had gambling problems or he was fucking too many people.
I didn't
hear everything.
Huh? Yeah, it's a little of everything.
Problems. Yeah.
Yeah, gambling problems for sure. He was like fucking his life up, and then I think it was like he was banging too many people.
Damn.
On the show.
Wow, what a cool way to get fired.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, dude, I was fucking running money lines and pussy.
He's another one. He tried doing comedy.
Nice.
And then, so that was the issue.
Of course.
But again, the comedy was like, here's the problem. He's following the template of the guys he fell in with, like Florentine, Jameson, and stuff like that, who are professionals for a long time, especially. But he's trying to go up there and do Just that, you know what I mean? Like, you know the best thing about fucking a kid's face is that they can't complain when their mouth's full of your dick to their parents. Yeah, and then he would be like, oh, okay.
You can't handle
You can't handle. Yeah, dude. I saw him at Caroline's like 1 or 2 times.
You can't handle the truth.
He wore like a low beanie, like kind of over his eyes. Like he was
dude.
so like, it was so about being cool, and it just did not work at all.
Shit, dude. Did he use the term bucket of AIDS? Because only real bad boys
More
use
than likely, he really said
only
that, yes.
the real bad boys use that term.
Oh, then she came over and she brought my wrong order again, so I hope she slips into a bucket of AIDS and dies from fucking rape.
Die. I hope your pussy rots. Oh, I'm so bad.
I hope you get rape death, cunt, vag, abortion.
I'm so hot and I'm so bad.
Yeah. It was pretty lame.
So I learned about Howard kind of retroactively and through the television show and my friend Chad. Every much a Chad as you think he is.
Shout out Chad.
He had Sirius XM in his truck. And so we would listen to Stern. He'd be like, oh, so-and-so's on Stern. And I remember like in Tucson in the hot fucking summer, like going in his car and turning it on and us just sitting there looking like we're doing gay stuff. It's because we're just listening to an interview that Howard's doing.
Oh, dude, that was the best. Once I discovered him when I was young.
Because he was on in Philly. I mean, John DeBello?
John DeBella.
John DeBella.
Well, that's who he booted off.
Yeah, that was in. I read Miss America.
Yeah,
his book Miss America. When he goes through the things of like, I was going to take his job, take his wife, and
they got his wife on the show.
Yeah, and he did. Did
they get her to do a dial-a-date too, or something? Like they got her like hooked up with somebody.
Yeah, she was in. She was all in.
So
and then they did the big funeral in Philly for him. He genuinely, when you talk to him, that is the problem with being on it so long that he has. Most of his time when it comes up, he just apologizes for everything now.
Who?
But it was great radio.
Well, I don't know, I don't know a lot, but when I saw High Pitched Eric, I knew him. And so he was just like having Super Bowl party conversations. So he's like, yeah, I think the Bears are pretty good. The Bears are a pretty good team. I don't know, the Colts seem nice. And then I was just drinking a beer.
I remember that Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, and I was like, I know that dude. I was like, I know who that
oh, fish!
But so you guys saw medicated Pete walk roaming the hallways.
I just saw him walk past. You want me to go get him?
Yeah.
Jacob, we're going to have him on.
It could only help our ratings, Jacob.
Boost the ratings.
Do we have ratings? Do they give us ratings?
Yeah, dude. You miss the ratings meeting every week. There's a rating.
DJ Lou's going to go try to get medicated.
Well, he knows how to talk to him. Lou knows him, so Lou can hold up his hand and be like, hey, I'm safe. Come with me.
I want to be your lover boy.
So you know this guy very well. Or through Howard.
Through Howard, I know who he is, yeah.
Has he been on the show a while?
Oh, yeah. Well, he was an intern there at first, and now he's in his 40s. So, like, it's, to put that in perspective.
And Jacob, you're familiar with him?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how he was an
I've been
intern.
listening to Howard since 88.
So, and he was on.
Came here because of Howard.
Really? Came here to Sirius XM?
Yeah, I wanted to work where Howard worked.
That's awesome.
And then he left before you.
You know what's so funny is how much
he went out to the wilderness where you want to be.
You know what's so weird about that? About how shit sometimes you see life given to shit. You see stuff in life given to people that don't give a shit, and when you're like, oh, that means so much. Like I've seen that happen. Like I'm a huge Dave Chappelle fan. Mm-hmm. Some of my friends have become very good friends with Dave Chappelle.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh, man, I would appreciate that because I used to go see him live all the time. Similarly with Howard, I worked in radio. I worked at K-Rock. When I got hired at K-Rock, I didn't realize when they started like shutting shit down, we were in the old Howard studio. I like ran the board that Howard, I got to take dumps in that bathroom that was like his studio bathroom. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, I kind of know Howard. You know what I mean? Like you guys would have been like, oh, fuck, that was Robbins. Because even
buddy,
I
when
had
they took
that.
me, when Shuley or Richard Christie took me back there just to kind of look.
Yeah.
Like after hours, just to like look at the studio. It's neat. It's
yeah.
a little museum in there of like his stuff. It was cool to see like Gary Puppet and all those things, the Beetlejuice head, just in the museum is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was like, I didn't realize 40 West 57th, you know, because even I was an Opie and Anthony guy. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, Opie and Anthony are in here. And that's where fucking Ant sat. And that's where Jim would sit. So I knew that stuff. But then one of the guys was like, this was like Howard Stern's board. Like he built this thing. And I was like, oh shit. And then they would show me like the modifications he had on it. And
camera
like,
thing.
all the stuff he had where he could control the board. And he's like, and then that was Robin's booth. And you're like, oh shit. All right. Because it was this booth that was just isolated off. And then they put a big window. They had a window covered up. So
really?
yeah, so when it became Opie and Anthony's studio, they were like, "Oh, put a window there. We want to have like a window into the studio." So they put this like expensive window that had like a blind, like a blackout blind come down. Because I was like, I don't remember this, and then they showed me a picture of the Howard TV show, and I was like, "Oh, that's how it was all situated." But it was just basically a bare room when I was in there. But it was crazy to think like, "Oh shit, all right, this is pretty cool." And then I got offended when the Top 40 station, because Alternative 92.3, the station I worked at, just flipped again.
Oh yeah,
They became alternative, and they just ended last
Stern
Thursday.
was just talking about this. He was making a big thing about K-Rock went to now it's 10-10 wins simulcast.
Yeah, so it was they switched back to
kidding.
and they called it Alt. Well, they switched back to Alt 92.3, which is basically K-Rock, and they had it for a couple of years. And I thought it was funny when I saw it was Alt 92.3 because I was like, I got fired in 09 because you guys went to Top 40. But when the Top 40 people came in, and I was paid on air shift money to teach them the system and board op, I was like, they're like, wow, this is Howard Stern's old board, and I was like, you don't get to touch it yet. Like I wasn't even, I'm not that big of a Howard fan, but I was still like possessive of it, where I was like, you shut up with your Top 40 with your Britney Spears and Lady Gaga.
Well, I couldn't see how terrestrial radio will survive at all. Like if you want, one thing's for sure, if you want to hear songs,
wow,
ain't
Solo ain't happening.
He's in the bathroom, I think.
all right.
All right, we'll stalk him again.
We'll see.
There's like 3 other people dumping in there. I'm not waiting around. We got snacks.
Yeah. We have snacks.
I started here. I interned for Howard TV for when I first came here
Really?
in 2006, and then the engineering department at Sirius XM, the oldest living intern, I think. But yeah, I was like, my God, I'm seeing everyone.
That's
that
crazy.
I've watched for years.
Yeah, it's got to be
I
nuts.
was in the booth.
Well, I was saying, as you said, you didn't have it in Denver, but like picture like a, I don't know, what year did he come to Philly? Is there a way to look that up? What year?
I think it
Howard
was
Stern
like
came to Philly?
88.
Because that would put me at about 11 or 12. And I remember taking the school bus, and when I got my first Sony Walkman, the yellow Sony Sports Walkman that clamped over the buttons.
With the tape? Yeah.
With the tape, but it had a
Did it have the grip thing that you could shut, clamp down?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you
the
close
Sport
it, and then
Walkman.
it clicks over.
Yeah, I remember that.
To lock it in. That was my favorite one. And then 86?
Yellow.
Oh,
You came to
86.
Philly? Okay, so then
Yellow.
I was, so perfect. So I was, I was born in 77.
9.
So I came when I was 9. So probably when I was about 11, though, or so, going to school and putting on the radio and putting on 94 watts, which was the rock station.
Yeah.
And that was on the, and just like you start hearing it and you'd be like, yo, how is this okay?
That's great.
Like I'm listening to, it felt like when I was that young too, like R-rated radio.
Yeah. Well,
Because
it was.
because
they
they
pushed
would-
it right up to the line and then would get fucking
Right, he goes,
fined.
you'd hear him exactly. He'd be like, if you gave a mouth pleasure to your husband, they didn't find like the words around it. If you would give mouth pleasure to your significant other,
I can't-
And I'd just be like hearing that, like, no fucking way, that's crazy.
First thing I heard was the N-word. Marge Schott did a Christmas song.
And they played
Schott,
it.
Yeah, Marge Schott, the racist owner.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, she owned the Reds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that old lady that just smoked and said the N-word.
Didn't care.
She just owned a...
Apparently in front of the players and
Yeah,
everything.
she smoked it. She'd walk in there when they were showering and
She's like
shit.
a plantation owner.
Dude, she was...
Dog.
Yeah, Marge Schott. Remember that?
Marge Schott.
And she would just smoke cigarettes and be like, "You're mine. You play second base for me. Show me a wiener." She was a
Wasn't
grizzled
all around the
old
same time as that? John Rocker, right? That was all the same things. Like
mean-
happened at a time where people just kept getting in trouble in baseball for racism.
I just remember how funny it was when Will Ferrell came out on Weekend Update. He was like, I think maybe a featured player, and he came out as John Rocker, and it was like,
Oh, yeah.
I remember crying laughing at that. He's like, my name's
was
John
it Philly?
Rocker.
Was it Philly where they threw the batteries at him?
No, it's
No,
New York.
Philly
It
fucking
was
threw
Shea.
a parade for him.
Yeah. So like, yeah, you said a lot of stuff up there that's brave. I think it was
Yeah, you
Colin,
really went for it, Rocker.
it was Colin Quinn and Norm Macdonald had the joke where they were like, John Rocker said, you know, his quote was like, what do I want to ride the 7 train to Shea Stadium? It was all Mets fans. It was like, with that, with a teenager with 4 kids and a gay guy with a purple mohawk and AIDS. And he like did that. And I think it was Colin or Norm goes, man, this guy's really ridden the 7 train. I forgot which comic wrote that joke.
This guy's definitely rode the 7 train.
Yeah. But it was, and then, but it was Will Ferrell as John Rocker. Is fucking hilarious. But yeah, that was around the same time, I think, like mid-90s.
And then I felt the same thing at late night with Loveline.
Oh,
I
shit,
was like,
okay.
yo, I'm hearing like
See-
I was almost like my mom doesn't know that I'm listening to something so
sensual,
racy.
Yeah, racy. So XXX.
And then Stern just like, yeah, the thing made me laugh, dude. It just got me laughing in the morning. I just loved it. It was like I didn't know there's comedy on my radio.
Because when you find your guy, you like found your guy. You're
Yeah.
like, this is my shit.
Yours is Floor Wax?
Yeah, mine was Lewis, actually. No, mine was Conan. When Conan took over late night, I like started watching it, and I was like, it was the perfect amount of silly for the age I was, that I was this guy fucking is so weird. He was
You get attached to the bits, like the year 2000 and all that stuff.
That was the story I told you about when that giant cholo in Arizona, when I went to go get milk, and I was high. I'd been smoking resin after class, and so I was like resin high. And I went to Fry's grocery store off Ina Road, the one where that fucking congresswoman got shot in the face.
Gabby, what's her face?
Yeah, it was that same fucking parking lot. But I'm high. I parked the Strat-ass. I walk into Fry's, and I'm out loud going, in the year 2000. And I'm making myself laugh because Comedy Central used to rerun Conan during the afternoon. And I ran out of milk, and I was like eating cereal. I was like, I'm going to go get milk. And I walk in, and I'm doing that. And I laugh to myself. And I just hear this, what are you laughing at, white boy?
Damn.
And I look over, and this giant Mexican dude, choloed out, white t-shirt, shaved head, fucking long dicky shorts or whatever, probably 6'6", over 250 pounds, is holding the tiniest baby I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
He's just holding this like little peanut of a baby. And I'm like, oh.
Didn't see that coming in the description.
Dude, I'm telling you, this was mix of resin high and just paranoia. And because I'm walking in the store going, in the year 2000. And I'm like, like laughing like that. And he goes, what you laughing at, white boy? And I go, he can't be talking to me. And I look back, and he goes,
excuse me?
He goes, what you laughing at, white boy? And takes the little baby and hands it to the mom.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to say just puts it down.
No, it's right down on the floor,
Yeah.
on the linoleum.
What's up, dude?
And he just, and I'm like, I'll just walk away. So I go, and I'm walking, and I turn a corner on the aisle to go to the dairy section, and he's behind me, but like a little bit behind me, but going, what's funny then? What's so funny? And I'm like, still like, they keep talking to me.
You know what the weird situation you're in right there is, because if you turn around and explain it, like, you feel like a pussy for explaining it.
Yes.
It's
but I
like,
just felt weird. I didn't know what to do.
It is weird, but because you're going to turn around and explain something to him, and something about masculinity makes you feel like I'm saying this so he doesn't beat me up.
Which is 100% why I would be doing it.
No, of course, but I'm there's also the thing of just the explanation that you're like, dude, what do you follow? It's like, I'm laughing at a thing from TV. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I watch Conan.
Yeah.
So I get the milk, and when I get the milk, I like turn the corner again, and there's all the cash registers, and this is before self-checkout or whatever. And so I'm like, and then he's like, what's funny? And I hear him again, and I turn, and I go down the thing to pay, and another lady from the other side comes, like her and her daughter come in.
Box you in?
Box me in. I'm paying for it. I'm up. They're there, and the guy's behind him going like, what's up? And I'm like, are you serious? This is like, I think the first thing I said to him. I go, are you serious? And he goes, what the fuck's funny, man? And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, as this is happening, I'm giving her like a $5 bill for a gallon of milk. And I'm like, and I fucking bolted, dude.
Ran.
They gave me the change, and I fucking was like, in my high mind, I was like, just get out of there. And I fucking bolted, got to my car.
Wrong. Because the thing is, like, you want to describe it, but like, he's already so in like the mode, like going for it, like angry, looking for a problem. That I'm saying, like, if you gave the answer, I feel like that wouldn't even solve the problem.
You'd be like, why? No, what else were you laughing
Gingers ain't got no soul. They're not funny.
Yeah. Yo, bro, you're telling me you like when he wrote for The Simpsons? You're trying to tell me right now that the monorail episode is without a doubt one of the top 5? You catch legs, bro. That ain't funny, bro. Oh, you got a dog that smokes a cigar, bro?
What is this? That's not Arnold Schwarzenegger's real mouth.
Dude, stop it, man. Why George Bush don't talk like that, bro? Yeah, I fucking...
You would have gotten angry at you anyway.
Anything I would have got. He would have broke down the comedy of it. It's great. He goes, what is the point of Andy Richter, bro?
Yeah.
Like, where...
He's there, and he's not there.
Mira, like, is he your Ed McMahon, or is he like an announcer, bro? Like, I don't even know what you're doing, bro.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it was
from the get-go, you're just like... But what
then
a telling psychological thing on that gut.
Fast forward to me pouring milk and Apple Jacks shaking because I'm still trying to eat cereal nervous watching Comedy Central.
But man,
the same way.
Yeah.
You picked
the
the
psychology
perfect time to bolt out of there to say that and leave.
The psychology of it, though, is so weird because like that guy is so on edge.
Yeah, well, he was ready.
He just assumes because a person's laughing in his vicinity, they're laughing at him. He feels so disrespected in life. Man. Well, what a weird thing.
And I can't. We all smoke weed in here. Jacob, you love to blaze.
Yeah,
I just
Jacob Burning Bush Batot.
We call him the Iron Lung. It was one of those
Tikal Batot.
Tikal. Jacob Tikal. It was one of those highs where I was trying to understand as it was happening and it wasn't clicking.
Sure.
Which I've experienced. I mean, this was 20 years ago.
You have weed panic. You're like, am I being jumped into a gang right now?
I can't be I don't want to be a Serrano 13.
Yes.
Am I a Latin?
I don't want to be a Rolling Deuces.
Am I a Latin king? Did they just make me a Latin king? You're going to tell me right now that you even think that Jay Leno and his observational humor of modern day stuff, man? That like, I did see this. I do know about this, Jay. Where's that Boston stuff, bro?
On the last season of that 60 Days In, I'm all finished it, the whole show.
You're all caught up?
Yeah. The last season, they put people in who have done time before.
Yeah.
And they put in a former Latin king who couldn't say more that he was involved with the Latin Kings back in the day and how violently he got out of it. But he went native. That was the funniest thing. They keep pulling him out and they be like, are you doing drugs that you're like trying to prove that you can get? And he's like, yeah. And by like the third thing he did, they had to like pull him out early. And he's like, why'd you pull me out early? And they're like, dude, you're just like, we're going to have to arrest you at some point.
We have you on tape trying to orchestrate another Attica. He goes, I did. I had him.
Dude, he sent people to fight for him. He sent like a 17-year-old kid to fight for him.
Great.
He did like a couple things that were like, and he's like, because when he would talk, they talk the talk so good. He's like, I want to inspire these kids. Like this kid, Nick, who's like a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 17-year-old white kid with like face tattoos and shit, this white kid, and who's just like, he talks, he's like, I didn't choose gang life chose me. He's like that kid.
Yeah.
And they like him though, and they're trying to like, so when they talk to him, they're like, dude, when you come out, like you have to get life on track. Like being in and out of jail is not the life at all. And then they'll come over and they'll be like, Carlos, that's the guy who's undercover.
Yeah.
They'll be like, Carlos, this guy said that he thinks you're a jerk off. And then that kid Nick will be like, I'm going to go knock him the fuck out. And then Carlos will be like, yeah, go fight him for me. And you're like, didn't you just say you're trying to help this kid out of the situation?
Yes. Actually, you know what? Even better. Here's a shiv that I made out of a toothbrush.
Hey, Nick, go kill him. But if you do ever get out of here, seriously, you should think about community college.
I don't know. Maybe get into like engineering.
Yeah. There's tech schools out there that'll keep, excuse me, what? Oh, Nick, go murder that guy for me real quick.
Are you talking about that guy who couldn't wait to tell you how much he was in with Latin Kings?
Yeah.
My dad's friends, and I think this is common with old alcoholics. Lou, I don't know if your dad's friends were like this, where they'll like put themselves next to a dangerous organization without being involved, but talk about how close they were to the said organization. Did that a lot?
My dad said he was a fucking Westie.
Yeah, dude. My dad would talk about
so great.
My dad would talk about the Hells Angels in Oakland because my dad was from East Oakland until he was like 10 or whatever, 11. And he's like, yeah, Sonny Barger. I'm like, you didn't know any of those guys. You didn't know a fucking...
Oh, my dad did that. My dad did that with Chicken Sal Testa, the guy they blew up in South Philly.
Yeah, they blew up Chicken Man last night. In Philly last night.
Yeah, Sal Testa and all those guys.
Shout out
knew all their kids. Apparently they knew all their kids, they said. It was like they were right there, but they used to kick the asses of those kids.
Of course they did.
Always, by the way.
My dad's thing was always, he was so funny. He was funny and nice, so the Hells Angels...
Everyone liked him.
They liked him.
That's a good approach. That's better. I mean, it's not a better dad story, but it's a better story to believe at your age now, possibly, than my dad being heavily involved with fighting mafia sons.
Yeah, way to finesse me, Gary. Way to make me think.
He gave me the good stuff.
He gave me like stuff where I was like, dude, I think my dad might have been down with the HAs. I go by their fucking clubhouse on 4th Street. I go, does the name Gary Soder ring any bells? And they go, I'm going to beat your pussy ass if you don't get off this doorstop in 5 seconds.
My dad, until he wasn't, dude, my dad was like, I've seen my dad in a few physical things before. And
Dad's a big man.
And like one of them, when we went to, I mean, he's an old guy now, but like he's in his mid-60s, you know.
Yeah, but
like,
when I met him fucking 7 years ago, and I was like, he's a big dude.
Yeah, and he's like, he's got those big hands.
He's got
those
paws on
him.
him.
Yeah, and I remember him and my Uncle Tommy when I was young. I was like at my Uncle Tommy's house in South Philly with him, and it was not like we were looking out their window. They were like on a second or third floor. We looked at their window, and there's just people, like jumping on someone's car. Like someone's in the middle of the street driving down the street in a car, and these young people are jumping on their car and fucking with them, like harassing them. And like my dad and Uncle Tommy's instincts were like run outside and like chase those kids off and stuff. I was like, yo, like that looks like a violent situation happening out there. And they're just like, we got to go handle some shit. I'm like, are you crazy?
Total opposite side of it. Same story.
But my dad's in his 30s at this point, considered too. Yeah.
Same story, opposite side. Joe, bad Joe, not good Joe. You got good Joe. I got bad Joe. When bad Joe was living with us, drinking with my mom, we had, Nick had got me when my mom was married to Nick, got me a basketball hoop, like an adjustable one. I put it just below, it was one of the ones.
Wait, Nick was before Joe?
Yeah. My mom married Nick from when I was 8 to 11. And then
really?
Yeah, Joe was in our house.
I thought Joe was in me. I thought your dad split and Joe jumped right in.
No, my dad split. My mom married Nick years down the road, got a hold of Joe.
Okay.
And they started dating when I was like 12.
Okay. And
then he lived with us until I was 16. So that's why I was like getting to the age where I could have fought him. Yeah. And he moved out. Moved out just when I made weight. But they would drink, and there was like older kids in my neighborhood. This kid Sean Washington and Rodell, and they would like play basketball at the corner. They were like 2 or 3 years older than me, so they were like might as well have been 10 years older than me.
I was where he came out and yelled at a black kid.
They were all dunking on the hoop because it was like Friday night, and he was drunk, and he's like, "I got fucking something to say," and I was just in the living room like, knock his ass out.
You want them to knock his ass out?
I was like, Rodell, I know you can fight. I've seen it at school. Knock Joe's ass out.
That'd be the first time someone goes to school and thanking a kid for knocking his stepfather out the next day. He goes, dude, you really made my house a lot better.
Activities hallway, the bench clears, and I'm standing there. I go, Rodell, I just want to thank you.
He goes, you did the right thing.
Hey, good right hook. You got a hell of a right hook, kid.
You followed your instincts. Joe was a little quiet last night.
Let's just say we're eating soup at home for a couple weeks because of you.
Good job, bro.
Oh, dude, I fucking was like, when he went outside, my mom was, the drunk lady going, Joe, don't do it. And I was just in the living room like, do it. Do it.
It's so funny.
I became Emperor Palpatine. Do it.
We always speak on the generalized emotions and stuff and everything. I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think if there's a moment like my stepmother is like my Joe.
Yeah, I mean? She absolutely was.
To some degree, or your Joe.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Diane was your Joe.
And it's like...
they do mean shit to kids that they shouldn't do to kids.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, first off, it's a child. Second off, it's not even your child.
Yeah.
Dude, I watched my mom...
I think that's what bummed Diane out. But that was my thing. But I don't know if I ever wished for... Because that's what I'm saying. Like, with Joe, was there... Would you say it was 70% fine time?
I would say it was like livable 70% of the time.
Like you didn't overthink it. Do you know what I mean? Like every time
I didn't like him pretty quick.
And I'm saying, and you didn't like him like consistently. It wasn't like a thing where once in a while, like he would be like, "Hey, you want to watch a movie or something, or go get something?"
I would always get annoyed with him.
Did he ever try to like reach out and do like a real?
Once my mom was over him.
Really?
Yeah. When my mom was like, "This guy fucking sucks. He's a loser," he started being super cool to me, and it got me at first because I was like 15.
He knew you needed that dad support.
He watched my dad die.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Oh, I got this kid," and he was like, and then he would do that shit of like, your mom's like going fucking nuts or whatever, and I'd be like, "Yeah, fuck her," because I didn't like her at the time. So I was like, "Yeah, fuck her, the fucking dumb bitch, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, right." And then I was like,
"Damn, you get me so much, Joe. I'll swim with you,
dude. Let's go take a lap. Can we do laps?
Let's go bang out some laps, dude."
And then I started seeing it, and I was like, "Oh, you're a piece of shit."
Yeah.
Like once I saw that, I was like, "Oh, you're a fucking
double down piece of shit."
Yeah, you're like a snake. I thought you were just a dork.
Because there's got to be, if you go through the Defending Your Life movies of my life, there's got to be me and Diane just like heading to the mall together and being fine.
Dude, my mom...
You know what I mean? Just like talking and laughing a little bit. And stuff. I do remember making her laugh. That's her big thing when she critiques my comedy unasked for. Is it's always like, "Oh, you were so funny," and she always reminds me of like a thing when I made them laugh with my It was like busting my dad's balls while he was trying to fix something.
Yeah.
And I was laughing at that he couldn't do it and making like jokes.
Yeah.
And like she loved that. You know what I mean? Like it's so there is like weird moments of that. She just overall was like annoyed by that I existed. Like I was in the way of her family.
Well, because what you are is you're a reminder of his past.
Right. Exactly.
You're just a reminder of Gary's past, and she's like,
and I come in with my personality already. And you know what I mean? I already have a personality. It's not like I'm 4 years old or something. It's just like she's gonna watch me develop. I was just what I was, and she didn't like it.
And that's probably the exact same thing that Joe's had, because Joe's like dating my mom. His former best friend that's just a raging alcoholic that showed up at his wedding. Joe's old wedding from the lady he got divorced from. My dad showed up at his wedding, threw up. It was like a problem.
Speak now, forever hold your peace. He goes, I've got...
Yeah. He was like,
that was all.
Your dad threw up in the fireplace. And I was like, that is hilarious.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, if you're going to throw up, fucking boot in the fireplace, dude.
The fireplace.
Just on logs.
Puts the fire out.
Gary. And then but he didn't. I was like, I was 12 when he moved in, so I was like, yay, had a little bit of Gary in me, and he was probably like, this motherfucker. But then they were just mean. They were just drunk and mean. That was the difference. My mom and Joe.
Oh, both of them together.
Yeah, they'd get drunk and then just fucking like start feeding off each other, like us riffing.
Like mean at each other.
Mean to me. They were both. That was their common goal.
Your mom would be mean to you?
Yeah, they'd call me retarded and shit. Like legit at dinner, they'd be like, "You're fucking stupid."
You're like, "I am not." As you take a bite of chicken and drink milk.
Yeah, which they served. So.
I am not. I'm not retarded. They served it. They gave you retard food.
They gave me retard food and called me retarded.
He goes, they called me retarded, and I would just sit there sipping my applesauce for dinner.
I go, I'd bang on my helmet, and they wouldn't even hear it.
They don't care.
They don't care. Yeah, but they were just like,
I'd have slobber all over my chin, and no one would wipe it.
It's some shit that like through therapy I talked to my mom about. Where I was like, yeah, we gotta fucking square this up. That was fucked up, and she was like, yeah. Very embarrassed by that.
Really?
Yeah, my mom's mortified about it. When we talk about those 4 years, she's like, I was in a very dark place. I had no business dating that man. And I'm sorry I brought him into your house. And I was like,
that was, damn.
Yeah.
What a one shot and done forgiveness.
It really was.
Right away, you just gotta go, okay.
Yeah, it was.
That makes sense.
It was a 45-minute conversation of us like.
You also realize.
Very shitty bringing it up. It felt very bad bringing it up. But I was like, yo, do you remember those dinners? And she was like, yeah, I was a little drunk. Don't really remember.
This is what age brings to you, though. To you.
Yeah.
Is the perspective, one, of, above all else, time. So the reality is like, it's 4 years of your life when you're 12 to 16.
It's a lifetime.
It's most of your, in your mind, of your aware and know what you like and don't like life.
It's also.
It's like half. It's like half your life.
But also the timeline of it, it feels, because it's 4 years and that feels so important, it feels like it's never ending.
Right, as I'm saying, and in your mom, but your mom, even at that time, it was like, oh, that was like quick. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it wasn't that long of a time, but like for you at that time, it was like, man, is this ever going to end? Like 4 years is a long time in a miserable thing.
Well, also the thing is I got older, so like it was easier to stay over when it first started. I was in like 7th and 8th grade, so I'd just stay at McDaniel's house because I knew they get banged up on the weekends. Because my mom she worked fucking like 60, 70 hours a week. So I knew on the weekends is when they ripped.
They get tuned.
So I was like, oh, if I can stay over Friday, Saturday night at McDaniel's house, and I come home Sunday, they'll get a little banged up on Sunday.
His
they drank.
What was
they drank
his parents'
every night.
story? What was his parents' story? Just
Ruled.
normal, regular people?
Fucking ruled. Donna and Gary, he had a Gary, but he had a good Gary. His stepdad worked for the Broncos, and they fucking ruled. His mom, every time I see her to this day, I'm like...
Are they still together?
No, they got divorced when Mike was in college. But Gary was the first positive male role model that I had. He was the first guy that, like, I would go to his house and he'd be like...
Until you met DJ Lou.
And then I was like, you're it. You're my role model. But he like smoked weed, had Mike's mom was hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were younger, Mike's mom, like, Donna was hot.
Well, she liked that black D.
No, he was white.
I thought he's half black.
Well, his dad was his biological dad.
He's a quarter black.
Yeah,
I gotta fix this complaint article now.
But it was like a good place to go. You had houses like that, right? I mean, but your mom and you
I
were
always thought I liked the houses that you can go to where you were allowed to smoke weed and the kids were allowed to drink stuff.
That wasn't that house. We weren't allowed to smoke weed and drink. I could just stay at his house. We were still kids.
That was got you.
It wasn't like we weren't allowed. We were definitely not allowed to smoke cigarettes. Definitely weren't allowed to drink. I would sneak out and do that.
So just someone's house where like it was pure goodness.
Pure goodness.
Let me think. Yeah, there's like several. I think.
I mean, dude, it was like Friday, I would.
I mean, my house was essentially that. I mean, everybody smoked. Like my mom and stepfather both smoked cigarettes, and they smoked inside, but that wasn't crazy at the time. And the other, but like my house was always like.
Well, it turns out we found out Gary, Mike's stepdad, smoked a shit ton of weed, and it made sense because you're like, you were cool as fuck, dude.
But nobody smoked weed in my house. No, my parents didn't smoke or drink at all except cigarettes. No weed or anything like that, and no drugs. So my house was like, it was unconventional.
Yeah.
The way it kind of ran, very unconventional for sure. But it was always like friends very welcome, and like. It wasn't a place like where you can come and just do whatever the fuck you want. But like
now, see what's crazy?
My parents were happy to have people over.
My house, even though my mom and Joe were fucking banged up all the time, it was very conventional. Dinner was at 6.
Yeah.
You were like friends coming over was like you had to ask for permission. My mom was very like classic in how she kind of ran shit. But then it just sucked. It just sucked on top because if you had all these rules, and then they would get fucking drunk and get mean and shit. Yeah. Dude, I remember one time my mom.
That is weird. That's a weird thing. That's what I'm saying. My house unconventional. My friends, like I probably have friends like you're saying about.
Oh, dude, going to
McDaniel's moms. I probably have friends that are like, man, it was really like, like my buddy Glenn.
It could save a lot of kids,
house.
man.
My Glenn had his front of his foot removed from cancer. He like stayed at he like recouped at my house for like 2 months because his dad just worked and was just really not there that much.
It was crazy.
He didn't have a mom in his life.
And I remember like sleeping over at McDaniel's house like one time during the week because my mom was like business trip or whatever. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to McDaniel's. I can walk to school. I think we were like freshmen at that point, or the middle school was right next to the high school. So it was like close enough where I was like, I can just walk with McDaniel. And she'd be like, yeah, whatever. She was busy. She was just like, yeah, okay, fine. What? I don't give a shit. Donna and Gary are cool. They were good parents. And they were like fun. We'd do like fun shit. And then Gary would just take me to the Broncos facility. He'd be like, and I was a Niner fan. Yeah, I'd be like, oh shit, but he'd be like,
everybody's pads.
But I got to meet like the people that worked at the facility. I thought that was cool. Like he would be like, hey, if you run like they used to tape. So Gary would be up in the stadium. His job was the videographer. So he'd film all the games for the Broncos from a specific angle. And then his job was to break down the tape into like 1st and 10s, 2nd and longs, 3rd and longs. And that was what he would do all week. So he would be like, yo, you want to come help me out? I'll give you a little bit of money if you come help me out at the facility. And I was like, dude, even though I wasn't a Bronco fan, I'd get a free shirt and then I'd get to like clear tapes.
And that was McDaniel's stepdad.
Yeah.
And he would just take just you.
Well, McDaniel would be ball boy.
I want you to overthink right now.
McDaniel was their ball boy.
Dig deep.
He did not fuck me.
Okay.
He did not fuck me. Trust me, dude.
Allowed himself to be.
I've done enough therapy to wish that I was molested.
Yeah.
Because then it's just
explain some things. Yeah.
It's the thing instead of it just being life.
Yeah.
And life is hard to stand up for yourself and all this shit. Finding out like, oh yeah, turns out I sucked Gary's dick when I was fucking 12.
Oh,
no.
Gary was face fucking me all the time because I thought I was meeting the Broncos people.
What's crazy about that is he molested me with niceness. I wasn't used to people being that kind to me.
He could have molested me. I fell in love with that guy.
I was so. Ask McDaniel. I was like, I want to grow up to be like Gary. And he'd be like, what? McDaniel, because McDaniel was cool. Like, I know he's like kind of a nerd now compared to these alpha males in the NFL. McDaniel had style and shit.
He doesn't read to me as nerd.
Well, that's how they like classify him because he's like good at coaching and he's not an alpha, big, brawny guy.
Gotcha.
But he was like very good with women, very stylish. His mom was very stylish. So like McDaniel always had like cool. When we became friends in 7th grade, he had the Ken Griffey Juniors.
Yeah.
And I had the fucking Frank Thomas big hurts from Reebok because they're on sale at Payless.
I got you twice.
Yeah, I did. And then tried to fuck my girlfriend when she moved
Tried.
to LA. Probably did. And then now, so like McDaniel was like kind of cool. And so I just liked going there to be like, oh, this is like, it was like fantasy camp. Yeah. You're like, oh, this is what it's like. They had a nice house in Piney Creek, which was like the newer development. Yeah. So like the house was newer.
That's how people were supposed to live.
Yeah, dude. And then I just like I would just leech off them. I would just come and eat their food and shit. I can understand being annoying. They got EAS. Do you guys remember EAS when the NFL started like putting that out? EAS was like, it was like a supplement. If you bring it up, Black Lou, it was like a supplement that they gave.
Oh, like a GNC type thing.
Yeah, similarly in the WWE Icon Pro was like all over there in the back of old wrestling stuff because they give supplements.
Yeah.
But EAS was like specifically the Broncos. And it was like, oh, the Broncos and EAS, but they had these instant chocolate milkshakes. And I would be at McDaniel's house, and I'd be like, "Yo, let me get an EAS." And he'd be like, "Dude, you can't." Gary brings this home from the facility, and I'd be like,
He's like, "Yo,
let me get one of those EAS."
Goes, let me get juiced up.
Yeah,
I used to. You know what's funny?
It's the acronym. Yeah, so that's it. That's EAS. Yeah, so they're still around, and they would do like weight gain milkshakes, which you can drink when you're fucking 12 and your metabolism's wild.
Sure, I remember. Well, my metabolism was not wild when I was 12. And I remember finding out, because I was like, when my great-grandmother would come over, my grandfather's mom.
Yeah.
After he passed away, she lived for like many years after that. And she would come up very old, and they have to put weight on them. So they would get Ensures.
Yeah.
That were chocolate or vanilla.
Oh,
and then
so good.
She only came over like once a week. So during the week, man, God forbid I found one of those. And I was just like, in my mind, I was like, chocolate shake. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Shake in a can. And it was so good. And it was probably 4,000 calories.
You know what we need to do next Thursday for next Thursday's show?
Crush some Ensures?
Next Tuesday, we need to bring in all of the science food that we used to eat. Snackwells, Ensure.
Oh.
David and Vivian drink an Ensure a day.
Do that?
The mega one, the 30 grams of protein.
I gotta get fucking.
Yeah.
I gotta get my grandma on that.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Some Ensures?
I don't know. At least, well, yeah.
Because at that age, they can't take in enough.
No.
Yeah.
They're 90, but at 12 years old, I was gunning for those weight gain shades. And McDaniel would get so fucking annoyed with me.
These aren't bad for you. These are 150 calories only.
Yeah, well, we'll do that. Let's do some Ensure. Max protein.
Yeah, it was like to keep my great-grandmother alive.
That's what I got to give my grandmother. It's like, but dude, with the EAS, I was doing it because I was just like a 12-year-old who wanted a chocolate shake after school. And he'd be like, "No, we're going to go ride bikes." And I'd be like, "Can I have an EAS when I come back?"
Yeah, let me crack one of those EASs.
And I was the
Dan,
friend.
look, we have Diet Pepsi, Mountain Dew. He goes, what are them?
I loved it, dude. Because I didn't know what it was. I was like 12, and my tastes are white trash. So
he goes, I don't know what's going on here. I drink these shakes, and I'm making massive gains.
I am fucking yoked. Is it just me, or did my fucking lats come in?
I'm making such massive gains.
Something fierce. But, dude, Gary would do cool shit. He would do, which is illegal now after 9/11, but he would take M80s, and then he would take a cigarette, rip it in half, put the wick of the M80 into the cigarette, into the top half, and then light the cigarette, and then put it, and then we'd go sit in his car and watch the M80 pop off and people run, which is fucked up, but it was
pretty fucked up. So close to Columbine.
I mean, this was years before Columbine.
Yeah,
some say we were the inspo.
Yeah, they saw that. Those kids saw that, and they were like, "Man, look how much people scat. Look how much power you have."
Eric Harris was smoking a cigarette. He goes, "What if we did it for real?"
Yeah. We show it.
We show it. Full penetration.
We show it.
You've been listening to SiriusXM's Bonfire. New episodes every Tuesday through Friday mornings and full shows always on SiriusXM.